Hey Kritika, welcome to Untitled. It's great to have you here. Thank you for taking your time to do this. I know we have been planning this since a long time, but finally it's good to see you, and I think it's going to be a great discussion ahead.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Kinshuk. And I think reaching out at the right time, I would say, because we're at this point where we're trying to get the word out, and it synergizes very well.
Yeah, great. And I've been
excited for the conversation.
Yeah, and the reason I was really excited for this was that I've been really curious about the topics that we are going to discuss. I've been reading about them a lot, following them a lot, whether it's on social media, YouTube, and anywhere else. So yeah, looking forward to learn a lot from you with this conversation. I'm sure that the people who view this session as well, I think there'll be a lot to learn. So cool. Let's go ahead. I believe your journey would be a good place to start with. So can you just give us a good brief introduction about yourself, and share a quick time lapse of your journey from graduation to Partnr, the venture you're currently involved in?
So a quick introduction about myself. My name is Kritika. I'm based out of Bangalore in India. Pretty much lived here all my life. Fortunately, I've gotten a chance to interact with many people because it's an IT hub. Different kinds of people from different background from other cities in India, as well as international folks. So that has helped diversify the thought processes. I would definitely say, staying in the city has been a plus, and not denying. Then about my journey, with respect to my journey, I did study computer science and engineering from PESIT in Bangalore again. So during college, the first 2 years, I was heavily involved in extracurriculars more than college curriculum. So the first bit of clubs or communities that I was involved in, and that really moved me, especially because of the philosophy behind these communities, one was free software movement. I was a part of the local college chapter, and then we used to do a lot of events, host events, prepping for the events, conducting sessions, pulling off some getting speakers, all of that, and helping. There was also this outreach aspect to it, which was very appealing because we were helping out underprivileged kids with respect to tech. So yeah, that was my first bit of exposure, I would say. And then Mozilla was another community that I was involved with. And both these communities also gave me exposure to a lot of coders, a lot of, I would say, geeks in the space who I admire and respect a lot. So, the first time I got to meet G-Sockers and stuff like that. Then the second 2 years of college were which is a not-for-profit. It's an international not-for-profit organization. And that, again, apart from curriculum studies, for the first time, I got to experiment with sales, business development, leading teams for the first time, working with different countries and actually heading some of their teams for them, which was to 19, 20-year-old, a big deal at that point of time, right? Because later when I look back at it, during the role, it didn't really mean as much. I was doing it because I was having fun, and it was fun talking to people and getting work done. But later I realized the ability to even approach a stranger and have a conversation is something that I picked up there. From being an introvert, I learned how to selectively be an extrovert and within the purview of getting work done, getting things done. So that was pretty much university journey. And yes, I always had a thing for tech. I always I wouldn't say like I enjoyed coding 24/7, but it's something that definitely excited me, and I always did keep in touch with the tech space. Then PwC happened, campus placements. So within PwC, I worked on ERP implementation, like within the ERP space. I was working with SAP ERP, and within that, the sub bracket that I was working on is called business planning and consolidation, which dealt with legal consolidation. What that means is essentially rolling up numbers from the most granular level all the way to the top. And I did that for a couple of big MNCs, mostly based in the Americas region. That was my first exposure into financial statements, balance sheet, P&L, cash flow statement. What does this even mean? And because these were large scale implementations, for the first time, I was looking at big numbers. You're looking at big numbers for big MNCs. So that really shaped my perspective. And even in terms of understanding how the roll up happens, like you've got to understand why legal structure is a certain way. So legal structure differs in different entities, different countries. So you've got to understand that before you can give a solution. That understanding, as well as understanding of ledgers, different ledgers tied to different legal entities again. So how a ledger is structured in a company, what is the importance of a universal ledger? So all of that knowledge, I would say, definitely came in from my work at PwC, and I've had amazing mentors all along. And also apart from that, I was active in more extracurricular things, even within the company. So there was, I think, just when I joined in, digital transformation was starting, was just beginning at that time, and I got to play a role in a lot of transformational things that were happening for the offshore centers. So I happened to work with PwC US and offshore centers back in India. So here, got to be a part of those initial teams driving driving the change in front of your eyes. So that was another experience that shaped up my perspective as to, okay, maybe this is how change is introduced, and how are people reacting to it at a granular level? What is the strategy from that's coming in from the top? So things like that. Again, I would say, tying back to amazing mentors, I've had a director, sit with me and push me forward on, or if I put up certain points, then people who support me into strategizing that, bucketing it into different parts. So all of that I was fortunate to have, definitely. And also was involved with some internal products that went from 0 to 1 to 10. So that's been my I would say journey within the corporate. How did Partnr happen was more of it's more of a search, that an internal quest for myself, rather, with respect to where is the world headed, where do I see myself fitting in? And Partnr is nothing but answering a personal question for myself as to, where do I see the world evolving? How do I fit in? That's essentially how Partnr came into the being. And I've been doing it I've been exploring different lifestyles as a side hustle, just to see if I can pull off corporate for the long term, or do I see myself fitting in elsewhere, just, living and experimenting. And I think Partnr happened because I stumbled upon a lot of problems that really need solving, and certain things that, from a philosophical point of view, that I'm absolutely bullish about. So yeah, that's the crisp answer. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thanks for taking us through your journey in a detailed way. I think there's a lot to connect to. One thing I could connect to while you were, taking us through your journey was ISEC. So that's a bit something which is common between us, because I was also a part of ISEC during my uni days. And my experience was similar as well. Like, I think so I think I joined ISEC in my second or third year. I'm not able to recall correctly. I was there for a year and a half. So I think it will be second year only. But I think the first year of my uni, I was really an introvert, and ISEC pushed me to, break that boundary, and, make connections, make friends, talk to people who I didn't knew before. So I think I had a same experience, and uh, I credit a lot of things that I did, like after uni, during my professional career, to ISEC, because I think that was the inflection point where I broke the barriers of introvertedness, and, realized how important networking is, how important talking to other people is. And I really learned a lot from that experience. So yeah, I can connect to your journey in some way. So that's great.
High
Cool.
five. High five.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. And also, I think the fact that you're doing the podcast now is also like another connected thing that we're
Yeah,
talking about.
definitely.
That's great to hear.
As Steve Jobs said, that you can always connect the dots going backwards, right? So yeah, I think that is. So let's focus on Partnr for a bit. Can you briefly explain in all simplicity, like, what Partnr is, and what is it trying to solve in the workplace?
So what is Partnr? In a very crisp way, you can look at Partnr as a bridge from Web 2 to Web 3 within the purview of future of work. So what does this mean? Let's start breaking it down probably. So what does this bridge from Web 2 to Web 3 even mean? What was Web 1? So Web 1 is a part of the internet, the first phase of the internet, which we also refer to as the dial-up era of the internet. Really slow internet speeds. You could only access information, and like people who hosted information like would get paid per page and stuff like that. So that's how that era started, and then came over the Web 2 or the social web era of the internet, where, of course, we've seen big giants like Facebook and Amazon and whatnot dominating. So that, for the first time, Web 2 introduced social interaction within the web. For once, you weren't just accessing information online, but you were also contributing to the information online, be it a Wikipedia, be it, I think in one of the chats that we've had, you did bring up Wikipedia as an example. So be it contributing there to like being able to contribute or talk on Facebook to Instagram, and like all of these host of platforms that we're now very familiar with that we're used to, is a part of the social web or the Web 2 era. Now, the next paradigm that's coming up, and that a lot of people are maybe not necessarily aware, but know that, know a couple of use cases, is the Web 3 era of the internet, essentially, which propagates for open internet, for free internet. It's working on re-decentralizing the internet, rather. So the first Web 1 era that came into the picture was actually a decentralized internet. And then Web 2, what happened is we have a couple of players that are dominating. And the user philosophy is essentially saying that, you know what, I do not want to be manipulated. Like, I do not want to be a rat, right? Like a lab rat, for you to succeed anymore. And also, quoting Chris Dixon from one of his podcasts, he's a partner at A16Z. And so one of his podcasts, he was saying that if we just let things rest, probably the internet would become like a TV of sorts, where we're just switching between 4 channels, and these are the 4 tech giants that we see out there, 4, 5 channels. So that's something that really struck with me when I did listen. Given that Web3 has been a philosophy, I think that's been I personally look at it as the next step to the free software movement, rather, where Linux came in and all of it's been great after that, right? Like, so Linux, GitHub, all of that happened, and now I see Web3 supporting an open internet. Also, it's designed to benefit all of the participants, which means that's where token economics come into the picture. We'll probably delve into it if we get the chance to. But very interesting concepts. Like, if you look at the core of Web3 infrastructure, it's very interesting, and you see possibilities that you couldn't have possibly even thought about earlier. So blockchain, Bitcoin was the very first, I think, example that blew up. It's been in progress, like I would say, like technologies like this, all of this, it's nothing new, but it's taking up shape now, more because, like any other revolution, this also has its base. And now, given the core emotions of people saying, you know what, I don't trust a certain thing anymore. Financial crisis happened a decade ago. Emotions being built from there. That's just like a small example. There are so many other occurrences that have happened over the past 1 to 2 decades, which have accumulated enough emotions of people to say, okay, fine, this is the next thing, and I'm going to bet on it, right? So that's the Web3 era. So now when we're talking about Web3 era, right? So where do I fit in? And like, what does the lifestyle even look like in the Web3 era? Is the question that I started asking myself. So the next, so now with respect to lifestyle, let's start with Metaverse. Like, it's become a buzzword, like especially after Facebook's recent switch to Meta. So now with respect to do we understand the Metaverse? Has it been there? How long has it been there? All of these speculative questions are coming up now, and people are trying to define what the Metaverse is. But it's again a concept that's been there for a long time. Gamers are super familiar with the concept. So now, why is the Metaverse coming into existence? Why is it taking up shape? Facebook is solving for the UI part of it, according to me, which is like the virtual reality, augmented reality, interacting in the virtual world is what Facebook is solving for. They've changed the name to help build the Metaverse. Again, clarifying that that does not mean only VR and AR is a part of the Metaverse. The major part that a lot of people are missing out on is the back-end part of the Metaverse, which is hardly spoken about. If you look at the crypto definition per se, like if of the Metaverse, you see that it's you need a universal ledger that's holding things together. Let's say we're talking about something like virtual cities, entirely virtual cities. You need something, you need the right infrastructure to be able to support a virtual city. How is that going to happen? You have a universal ledger. So that what will support that kind of an infrastructure? At the end of the day, it comes down to blockchain being able to support that kind of an infrastructure. You see, Ethereum, NFTs, all of that, in a way, is still a part of the Metaverse, but more the back end of the Metaverse, where it's not very easy to just jump in and use. Like, it's taken a long time for it to get where it is today. But essentially, the back end to the Metaverse is, there are a lot of projects, there are a lot of developments that are going on. I think one of it, is projects that I've seen personally. One of it is City DAO. They are building a city on the Ethereum blockchain, which is nothing but buying physical pieces of land, building virtual world, tying the virtual world back to the physical land. So that's something that's actually going on, but not a lot of people are aware of. Um, another example would be, I think, Ethereum, like ENS, right? Ethereum name service. They are doing an amazing job by saying, oh, this is your identity on the metaverse. This is your identity on chain, right? So, and they're saying like you can own hundreds of them, you can own like 10, 15, and define your identity on the metaverse. NFTs are another way, which is like, NFTs are another buzzword where, everything, there's too much gaga over NFTs. What are non-fungible tokens? Essentially nothing but representing ownership. Representing ownership where? In this virtual land. This virtual world is nothing but like Ethereum for now, or like one of the other blockchains for now. But if you see, this is still the back end of that virtual land that we're talking about. Now, to help connect the dots, we spoke about the front end, we spoke about the about the back end as well. So if another interesting concept that is coming up is the concept of a network state or a network union, crypto civilization. This effort is being led by Balaji Srinivasan. So if you like follow him, it's very interesting how he's put a lot of things together and is envisioning, I think, starting off with like a virtual city of sorts and then transitioning all the way up to like a network union, a network state, and people call it the crypto civilization because the base currency is, involved with cryptocurrency. So fascinating things happening in this space. Okay, it might sound like I'm completely off topic, but getting back to the main question. All right, amazing things happening. I have gotten to know about like some of them. So how do I fit in? Really? So how do I fit in? That is a question that I started like I've been answering, trying to answer for myself for a long time. And I think I stumbled in the quest to answer this. I stumbled upon DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. Again, we'll dwell upon it a little more if we get a chance to in the future. But for now, like where, okay, apologies, got distracted. Yeah, so what I was saying is, at the end of the day, coming from an Indian family where jugaad is sort of like the norm, I was just exploring different ways to, get my feet in. And DAOs, to my eyes, were like the best way to just like, jump in. Again, Web 3.0 company structures, you can work with them, you can start incentivizing in their native tokens, which translates to actual monetary value in the market. Great. So this question is solved. Now, how can I do it for the next 10 years? Can I do it for the next 20 years? I don't know, because the market is too nascent. DAOs are structures that are just coming up. And for me, let's say, like today, I don't want to confine myself to working with a company. I can't do that, right? And it's something that I figured out for myself, like internally questioning myself over a period of time. So now the next thing is, okay, let's say I want to, like, I'm somebody who wants to work with an Amazon in the morning or Google in the afternoon. And this is utopian, but still, like, let's say there's no harm in thinking about it, right? So, and like, let's say a Flipkart, Facebook at night, right? Or a startup or something. So given this is where I'm coming from, I also wanted to solve for this problem of, okay, fine, already there are 100 plus DAOs out there. now based on my interests, my skill sets, I mean, what I'm going to get paid for, my interests and how I want to like keep moving in the future and refining my life roadmap of sorts, I want to be able to connect to the right DAOs. I'm not tied to one over like a lifetime. I'm not tied to one for 10 years. I'm not tied to one for 2 years. But I want to get the chance to work on the best ones, right? Like that's where for me it meant, okay, fine, let's start mapping what I'm good at and like my interests to the actual work out there. So like that's sort of a matching process, but in this ecosystem. Yeah, so like during this process, of course, I figured a lot of pain points that we could solve for, and we're touching base on, we're exploring a lot. Then more from like a layman point of view next. Um, the more I spend time, I realize that the more people there are joining the ecosystem, believing in the ecosystem, contributing to making it big. So let's say 10 years from now, it's going to be one of those other phases where the market is going to be saturated. So that's again like this question of, okay, now how do I set myself apart from anybody else? Fine, I can make a living out of what I get today, and I can continue that for a while, like till I can enjoy it till like, we're at the early adoption phase of the DAOs today, and the bell curve is going to happen, and we'll know when the saturation hits. So before that, how do I secure like a place for myself? How do I stand out from the rest of the crowd? So that's what led me to this answer of, or let me put or represent a part of myself on that metaverse that people are talking about on chain, right? So yeah, that's essentially where this concept of tokenizing skill set comes from a very personal point of view. It's a problem that I'm solving for myself and for everyone else like me who wants to, get a front row seat. And from a philosophical point of view, again, I'm bullish about decentralization as a philosophy, and absolutely support it. So it was a no-brainer for me to, I think once I saw this, for me to actually quit my job and say, let's give in full time. Let's see what comes out of it. Scary path, of course, very scary, but I think this is essentially what Partnr does. I know it's been a detailed answer, but I felt that it was important to give this sort of a detailed answer to understand what it really is from an individual's perspective, rather. And yes, so we're working on tokenizing skill set. We're starting off with educating people because the market is very nascent at this point of time. We're basically telling people, hey boss, there's a spectrum called Web3 that exists. Do you even know about it? Telling them what that is, getting them started, and all the way up to if you want to really represent yourself on the metaverse, here's how we've figured out how to tokenize like the skill set. Come join us. Let's build together. Or if you want to be one of the first few to go represent yourself on the metaverse, uh, jump in on the bandwagon and let's do this together. So there's no hidden secrets with respect to what we're doing. We're happy. It's an open call to people who want to be involved with us. And yeah, we're happy to take this forward. And also one more thing, just clarifying, when I talk about metaverse personally, I am referring like my personal perspective on the metaverse is the front end is VR, AR, and things that projects like Facebook are working on. And the other backend to it, like I said, I touched based on multiple projects. I see blockchain, I still see blockchain, crypto, all of it being the back end to the metaverse itself. So whenever I'm referring to metaverse, I essentially mean this. So yeah, I hope I've answered the question, and sorry for the detailed response.
No. I think thanks for the answer. I think it's a good complex answer. I was while I was listening very carefully just because I'm such a newbie to this space. I was really trying to connect the dots or weave a pattern to the way you started and now where you at, and then the definitions of Web 1.0, Web 2.0, Web 3.0, and the other stuff. So just to encapsulate what I understand, Partnr is basically a marketplace for that decentralized working environment, or what work culture in the Web 3.0 world would look like, right? And currently you are focused on helping organizations find that talent, and also helping that talent prepare, upskill themselves for those organizations. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct. Yeah,
Great.
absolutely. So we're starting off, like you said, with the educational sessions from 25th of November all the way to 16th of Jan. We have open sessions every week, every weekend that people can attend. And we have some experts, pioneers in the industry, rather, conducting them for you. So feel free to join in, definitely, to understand, just get a hang of the basics. And of course, all of the content that I've spoken about, I'll place a link to the Discord channel where we've structured the same content out in a very, in an easy to understand manner. So it's going to be easy for people to pick up. So yes, it's a marketplace at the end of the day that focuses on connecting people to Web 3.0 company structures.
Great. Cool. So what we'll do for the the rest of the podcast is we'll try to break down what Partnr is doing and the stuff that you just mentioned into small pieces, so that we make it easier for us and the audience to understand. So I wanted to focus about, so one thing you mentioned a couple of times was DAOs, right? Like decentralized autonomous organizations. So I wanted to focus on that bit for for the next few minutes. So let's start with a simple definition of DAOs, and then what I really wanted to ask you is that basically how would the DAO work environment look like? And how far do you think that adoption of the DAO framework or a decentralized framework in a society where almost everything is centralized, how would it look like? And probably if you can touch base on how far or close we are to have a DAO ecosystem in place.
I think there's a slight network issue. So I hope I understood your question right. Kinshuk, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Were you able to hear the question?
Okay, awesome. Yes. So you asked about DAOs, and how far do you see the framework of DAOs coming into existence, right? If I'm right.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's start with what a DAO is. What is a decentralized autonomous organization? So an org where rules of the organization per se are programmed into code is what a decentralized autonomous organization is. So now, how does this matter? The actions of a company, of an organization rather, along with the rules of the company, like the base rules, are all embedded into code in a very transparent manner that's accessible to anybody and everybody. So and what DAOs solve for is essentially this problem of there's this problem called principal agent dilemma. I'll break it down and explain what it is. So essentially, a principal, so you're electing an agent to represent you, right? That's a system that we're all used to. So you as a principal is electing an agent to represent you, and that agent is in a position of power. And it's a structure that all of us are used to. But the dilemma is, if you trust this agent and you're electing, or if you're nominating, or different ways to basically put the other person to represent you, they can misuse their power. Either they do it for the good, or they leverage the power to play their own agenda. right? This is where it's, you trust people, but you don't know what the outcome is. You trust people to do good, but you also trust people to do bad for you, right? Like, and you can't predict the outcomes, you can't control the, but at the end of the day, we're living our lives. We do want to, we don't want to get manipulated, and we want to control as much as possible of our own lives. So what DAOs solve for is essentially this problem, saying there is no centralized authority. You're not governed by a CEO or a government or a central government. I think touching base on this quote that I found somewhere, there is no CEO, and the contributors, I mean, I'm sorry, I actually forgot the quote. But essentially, it's a community governed network. So decisions are not made by a centralized authority, but it's made by the community overall. So that's what a DAO is in general. And then, again, like this trust factor is something that I spoke about when I brought up the principal agent dilemma. It introduces a trustless ecosystem, essentially.
Okay.
So when you say a trust ecosystem, like I can work with a random stranger online, but the work is going to get done. So that's the kind of, that's the kind of infrastructure that it supports. And also you don't have anything called employment contracts. All of the things are embedded like in code. There's no, typically what would, I mean, if you have a problem, you're going to like reach out to the legal jurisdiction, like, framework and get that sorted. Here it's all open rules, open book. So you have to abide by it. And essentially, so that's essentially how what a DAO is and how it works. But more aspects of it, of course, happy to decode as we go through the conversation.
Great. Got the point. I think so.
And I think the second part of the question is something that I haven't answered yet. Like you said, how far do you think
exactly. I mean, as per your
ecosystem, I think
understanding,
the framework, like again, absolutely, like personal perspective. I see it being at least 10 to 20 years away in terms of mainstream adoption, simply because like in the corporate today, digital transformation is a big thing where automation is taking over. For the mindset to transition in the entire ecosystem from there to where the early adoption phase of where Web3 is at least going to take 10 to 20 years. So it will probably start with like distributed ledgers, ledger tech within like the established infrastructures, and then eventually to like a decentralized model. Hard to completely imagine, easier to speculate. It's easy to see a new organization adopting the Web3 model and pushing it. But honestly, it's hard to imagine like an actually established organization completely decentralizing control and given the magnanimous amount of processes that are set in an organization. Tough to talk about that. I mean, I haven't been able to visualize it clearly, but it's very easy to, I think it's definitely easy to visualize a new structure, a new org, starting as a decentralized org for sure.
Great. Got your point. I think, so from the basic fundamental understanding, what I can decode is that DAOs are basically sort of trying to move away from that hierarchical structure that we currently see in organizations to a more community-based organizations where technically there's no leadership, technically there are no employment contracts, but like at least on paper, but everything is embedded in the code and everything works on the concepts like proof of work and stuff like that. And
right.
Or like as a side effect, it also enables, the remote work thing where, just as you speculated, like if I want to work for a Facebook in the morning, a Google in the afternoon, and a Netflix in the night, I can do that because I'm working remotely, B, I'm not governed by policies, by management, or by leadership. And in the end, it basically gives control of your career to the person back, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's where I think you're trying to indicate, if I'm understanding it correctly.
Absolutely. So if like an interesting concepts to for you to like for the audience and you to go back to and read upon is like the sovereign individual, sovereign collective. So these are concepts that from a philosophical point of view on decode these structures, and amazing reads.
Great,
Again,
great.
like if I'm able to plug in specific books, I will after the
Yeah, yeah,
conversation.
yeah. Do let me know. I'll put that in show notes here. So I think everybody can pick up the show notes and get access to the books.
Sure, sure,
Great.
sure.
Um, one question when I was reading about DAOs and from this conversation as well. So there was a phrase which I read somewhere, which said that in a decentralized organization, no one is a CEO, yet everyone is a CEO. So, one of the fundamentals about, a decentralized working environment is that, you remove that traditional hierarchical framework and replace it with a consensus-based horizontal structure, just what we discussed just now. My question to you was that how does one drive accountability and motivation within an organization to some extent, at least, when you remove that leadership, when you remove that hierarchy? And I mean, definitely you'll be also thinking about this within Partnr, when you expand the team and you hire more people, right? So what is your take on this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. With respect to, I mean, again, tying back to the same concept of, it's governed by the community and decisions are made by the community on the whole versus a centralized government or a CEO of sorts. So now, how does one drive accountability in these structures? Before I get there, firstly, I believe that leadership is always an important concept, and these structures respect leadership. So leadership is not going to go away. Meritocracy is not going to go away. At the core of it is meritocracy. So if you are moving to guide people, and genuinely, there's a saying that says leaders emerge. So always, I mean, leadership is revered in these networks. I've jumped into a couple of DAOs, experimented a little. So from what I see here, absolutely leadership is revered. From an incentive mechanism point of view, that's where I spoke about, like I brought up this term called tokenomics, which decodes to token economics. The incentive model is driven by tokens. Within the Web3 infrastructure itself, the incentive model is driven by tokens. So as a DAO yourself, you can either introduce tokens, your own platform tokens, or your platform coins, depending on, of course, if you host your native blockchain, then you host your coins. And if you're an organization or a structure on an existing blockchain, the the one that almost everyone is able to relate to is Ethereum as a blockchain. So if you're hosting on one of the blockchains, Ethereum, Solana, Polygon, like level 1, level 2, so many others. So then you get to host your own platform tokens. And yeah, essentially, after you hit a certain liquidity point, like it translates to market value, and people holding your tokens that are essentially people who have believed in you as a organization, as an entity, get remunerated, and they also benefit. So there are different types of tokens, again, utility. uh, so yeah, that's essentially that's essentially how the incentive mechanism is driven. And if you notice from the Web2 world that we're currently in right now, you're tied to a single structure, you're bound by contracts. So in that kind of a world, this is like saying, you know what, I'm giving you an equal seat at the table. I would rather say I'm giving you a seat at the table versus you having to slog for my mission slash vision. Great if you believe in it. It's not mandatory for you to believe in it. But you know, and I mean, we know the proportion of divide that happens towards like somebody at a granular level making things happen versus somebody on the top where bureaucracy plays out a lot. So essentially, it's like saying, you know what, today, if you believe in my mission and vision, you can come, put in a certain amount of your time and get remunerated accordingly based on merit purely. So that's where the concept is emerging from. And to touch ground reality today, do we have DAOs which are absolutely living by the term, you know, by living by the definition of what a DAO is supposed to be? I don't think so. Personally, again, personal perspective, I don't think so. This is a nascent space which is just emerging, up and coming. Today they are more digital organizations. Again, I'm quoting a podcast slash newsletter that I read. I'm not able to recollect exactly where, but they are more digital organizations today. Eventually, they are going to get to decentralized autonomous organizations. So there are certain pain points in the area which Partnr as ventures also trying to help DAOs solve for.
Great.
And yeah, I hope this answered
the
question.
Definitely. I think you enumerated a lot of great points. One thing when I think about decentralization, and while you were answering, the thing that was running into my mind was, which I wanted to share, is that because of the hierarchy and the rigid system that the current day organizations have, I think it was again, I listened to this in a podcast, again not able to remember what was it, but so this was probably driven by the industrialization phase, right, where we had factories, we had workers, we had a line manager which manages a set of workers and stuff like that, which has been continuing since decades. And I think technically with bureaucracy, taking bureaucracy as a factor and taking hierarchy as a factor, a lot of divide, we have seen a lot of divide being embedded into our ecosystem. And technically basically your salary, your annual increment, your growth in a company is also tied to in a certain way to the leadership that you work for, less than your performance, right?
Yes.
Imagine a context where I mean, I'm still a part of that corporate structure. You're probably not, but imagine imagine you're a top performer at an XYZ company, and there's a appraisal cycle which is coming up soon, but for some reason there's a conflict between you and your line manager. It can have a negative impact on your appraisal cycle, even though you were a top performer, right? That's basically a Web 2.0 story. A Web 3.0 story would be a bit different, right? Because it's a whole proof of work concept. You are getting compensated in tokens rather than having those personal connections. Your contracts are decided by a code rather than a paper contract which is signed between two parties. So you get a lot of ownership and you get a lot of flexibility, and it all depends on trust that you have on that organization, on that token. It all depends on the work that you do. It all depends on your performance, and it all depends like on the code technically. So I think it solves for a lot of nuances or issues that we have currently in a Web 2.0 space.
Yeah, so the first example that you touched upon actually is the principal agent dilemma playing out, right? Like it's exactly that playing out.
Yeah.
And in the second part, you said, yes, Web 3.2 company structures are coming into the picture, but that's where we're starting, but that doesn't mean, that's the end. Also, I want to talk about more of a bottom-up approach, or like an individual's perspective with respect to how putting up, let's say, like a part of me on the metaverse as a skill set rather is going to, so let's say me as a person is, Kriti as a person is good at 1, 2, 3 things that earn me a living. 4, 5 things which I really like to do can make for a secondary income, and 6, 7 that I'm, that I really love and I'm ramping myself up on. Random example, right? Just coming up with it now. So on this virtual world, in this virtual city, I'm starting with a virtual city because it's easier to imagine. In this virtual city that I'm living and interacting in VR, AR with respect to, like, let's say I can feel a person's push if they're pushing me even virtually, right? Like I'm talking about that level of interaction. Let's say I'm living in this sort of a world. How can I make anything out of it? So like I would rather put apart that 1, 2, 3 skill set, that skills that earn me a living. I'll probably want to attach a certain character to it, or certain professionalism to it, and put myself out there in a way that gets me the best returns. And 4, 5, I might be casual about it. I might be open to mentoring people, doing free gigs rather. So there's another way that I might want to portray myself, like a different aspect of me comes into the picture.
Yeah.
And let's say the last bucket rather is things I'm interested in. I would totally like run around just picking people's brains and understanding what this space is all about, like how are you doing something. So this is just like me as a person approaching things in 3 different ways, which can also come across in that virtual world as 3 different people altogether.
Great.
So given that each person has like multiple identities in a way tied to them, today there's no actual way to represent it in like the real world. A pseudo thing of sorts that's happening is you see one person having multiple Instagram accounts, right? Like where each account is used to represent like a part of them. So I personally see that panning out in the actual virtual world scenario, virtual city scenario, where pseudonymous identities are again like a concept that has been spoken about a lot, is being spoken about a lot and being worked upon. So like multiple identities of yours, you choose to put yourself out there as different names, but being tied back to yourself as a person. That is what tokenizing your skill set as a person means, and that's what we're working on. That's one thing. And also, like from another point of view, more from a grand schema point of view, right? Like I spoke from the bottom up. Now, let's say any economy that's come into the picture so far, like today, right from the beginning of time, the beginning of human race, sorry, not the beginning of time. So for any economy that's come into the picture, human capital has been the core of any economy that's thrived, right? Like there are different tools, technologies in each era, but you need human capital. And again, personal perspective, I see this as introducing human capital into the metaverse. Like my definition of the metaverse. So
Great.
just wanted to touch base on that as well, because from when you spoke about the trail of things, I felt like this probably was missing out.
Yeah, got it. No, I think it's an interesting perspective. Thanks for talking about that. Cool. I think we are a bit short on time as per the schedule. I have a couple of questions, so I think we'll quickly go through them.
Sure.
Now these are like, we'll come back to the universe from the metaverse to the real world technically. wanted to ask a little bit about the communities part that we touched based earlier, starting with ISEC. So you have been part of ISEC and also LEAP, which you're a part of currently. So ISEC was during uni days, and LEAP is what you're part of now.
Yes. Yeah.
Just quickly, if you can, share some experiences or anecdotes, like how these communities have shaped you up and how have you gained value from them?
Absolutely happy to. I think LEAP is definitely like a huge community a community that's played a huge role. Apart from LEAP, I'd also really like to touch upon 1729 is an initiative that was started by Balaji Srinivasan, and like a random person on the internet named Chance. He happened to create like a Discord group where just like-minded people could get in, and happened to join in as like the first 5-10 people. And again, that community has played a massive role in shaping my perspectives in about the space in general, and having those conversations with multiple people who are thinking at a different level absolutely helped. And again, like people, I would say this space gave me access to people who I probably wouldn't have even thought about reaching out to in the real world. Right, like people who worked on, let's say, an e-residency program for Estonia, people who lead organizations, entrepreneurs who are literally working on the future of work as we speak, building for the metaverse, um, and people who are building communities which are just because you can't afford education, like education tuition fee, like for your degree course. People are getting together into self-learning communities. They make themselves, they upskill themselves to be employable, challenging the status quo. Challenging the status quo by saying that, today, anyways, universities don't prepare you for a job. So why not get into a self-learning mode and prep ourselves up? And it's easy to learn, and like that power of community learning. And I'm quoting a conversation that I had, I think with Brian Peters, who's like the co-founder of Sbol, not very. He mentioned that community learning is like a very small aspect of schooling is a very small aspect of community learning in general. Yeah. Sorry, I was like just trying to recollect the whole thing, and this happened. And like simple things like someone telling me that, oh, we're just like mimicking creatures that mimic, and seeing somebody perform well in a community, and like being exposed to people who are doing their own thing in a futuristic manner just made it seem feasible for me, like made it seem possible. It was more, I wasn't like in my head, I'm like, okay, fine, maybe this person that I just had a conversation with is doing amazing things, has done amazing things. There was there was this other person who worked on a concept called startup cities, which is analogous to I think chartered cities and special economic zones, a much improved version of special economic zones. So okay. you see cities like Prospera coming into the picture with their private governance and stuff like that. So picking conversations with such people and really understanding where they come from sort of made me feel like there's a huge world out there, and there's so much that I need to be doing. And that the support that came in from there, this is more the 1729. Then TED Circles was another community that really helped because there was a point of time where I was hosting TED Circles often. So these are small gatherings of people who come together and discuss specific topics. And it's like, I look at it as a space, or I host a space which is very vulnerable, and you're having these real difficult conversations that are not, that you don't typically talk about, but is essential to talk about. So such kind of spaces that gave me exposure to people's problems, like, and like there being a norm of, okay, you know what, this thing I haven't probably spoken about to even to my best friend in all these years, but I'm able to open up and talk about certain things here. So that added like a different angle to how I view people, how I view things. Now jumping back to Leap, I know Leap was the example you brought about. So um, uh, coming back to Leap, Leap has also played like a massive role for me because like I've had people, especially meeting like 0 to 1 founders inside the community. For me personally, who was like, today, can I relate to Kunal Shah? I won't be able to, like, definitely not, because he's way ahead in the game. And I don't really understand what it took him to get there. But like talking to multiple 0 to 1 founders gave me a real perspective on, okay, what is next for me? And people who are 2 3 steps ahead of you are basically able to cheer you up and tell you that, oh, you know what, you've just got to like move 2 steps and you're sorted, like you've gotten here already. So that encouragement was very important. And I don't know how else I would have found it if not for like this sort of a trajectory and this sort of support. I definitely got from Leap, and also like some strangers that I've met online who've turned to mentors in some of the Discord communities for sure. Like I would really want to highlight Ila Dubey, who's like the co-founder of sorry, she's the co-founder of fintech platform.
Okay, we can always plug it in
Yeah,
the show
yes,
notes. So
yes, definitely. So she's been like a personal edu fund. Sorry
okay,
for the so she's the co-founder of Edu Fund, and she was in her 0 to 1 probably when I spoke to her for the first time. And she's been that one person who's, helped me like from a perspective point of view jump out of where I was to, let's go take a bet, go do your thing sort of zone. And
great,
yeah, I mean, Ragini, who's like the founder of Leap, she probably helped me with my first marketing email. So
great,
she
great.
drafted it out for me. So like definitely Leap's been like a sort of home community.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks for touching base on that part. I really wanted to ask you this because you always have been part of all these communities. So definitely those were probably the building blocks to your entrepreneurial journey, right? Cool. Thanks for touching base on that. So just 3 questions left. Now, these are like very light-hearted, off-topic questions, nothing related to the Metaverse, Web 3.0, or anything else.
Okay, back to ground.
Yeah, back to ground. We'll do it in a rapid-fire manner where you can only answer them in a word, sentence, or a phrase, right? So,
Okay, interesting.
cool. I'll start with the first one. So basically, being a Bangalorean, I wanted to know your recommendations for the best dosa around the corner and where can you get the best beer, like your personal favorites.
Dosa, MTR, Lalbagh, beer, Big Roasty.
Perfect. Yeah, I think Big Brewski is my personal favorite as well. Great.
High five then.
Great. The second question is your personal mindfulness practices. Like, and entrepreneurship is definitely a difficult thing to do. So what do you do to keep yourself flowing, to keep yourself sane?
Meditation helps a lot. So I'm thinking through the short answer.
Yeah.
I think set the tone for the day and get rid of the baggage at night and start the next day fresh. That's like sort of a mantra, which is very important. And for those, I feel the tools are more meditation and I think activity, exercise, meditation. And yeah, that essentially is very important to just get into the flow state.
Great.
Sorry, not in a phrase, but
no, perfect. Cool. So the last one is, let's say an 18-year-old reaches out to you for career advice. What would be your 3 personal tips to them? again in words or phrases?
Interesting. So first, I would say is explore all opportunities. Do things your way, like take up as many things. The only way to learn is by experimenting. Figuring out yourself is by experimenting. Talk to as many people as possible, shamelessly. I'm not going to say everyone's going to respond to you the same way, like with the same energy, but you'll be surprised that more than 95% of them typically do. They're happy to talk. And third is reflect internally. Every question that you typically seek answers to, like almost all questions are something that you can answer for yourself. So yeah, reflect internally before anything else. That's very important to learn as an art, because we haven't been taught about it anywhere.
Great. So explore all opportunities, talk to people selflessly, and the last one was to reflect on yourself and the opportunities. Great.
Yes.
Great. Cool. So I think we are at a good point to conclude our conversation. I really wanted to thank you for taking out the time to do this. Being an entrepreneur, I think you're just jumping in and out of meetings. So really appreciate your time with this. All the social
Absolutely
links.
A pleasure. Yeah.
Great. All the
Absolutely
social.
A pleasure doing this. Sure. Yeah. Go for it. Sorry.
No, it's a great opportunity, I think, for me to learn from it. So I was saying that all the social links for Partnr and any additional notes or book recommendations that you want to give will be in the show notes below. Do you want to plug in your basically either your Twitter handle or Partnr's Twitter handle, just as a quick reference?
Yes. So we're at PARTNR3, partners with no E. Again, PARTNR3. If you do have any questions, you want to pick conversations, reach out directly. Our DMs are open, so feel free to reach out or tweet out questions, and we're happy to do some sort of an FAQ session to answer it for you all. And again, an open call to everyone who wants to, who does connect with what we're doing and who wants to either contribute, come, understand what we're doing. And we believe in building this venture together as a community and solving for the problem together as a community. So yes, and thanks a lot for having me here today, Kinshuk.
No, it's a pleasure.
Seeing the potential.
Yeah.
And for seeing the potential, I think like special mention, definitely.
No, I think it's just the beginning of a massive change that we are all going to witness, and I'm glad that you and Partnr are at the forefront of it. So yeah, best of luck for that, and
thanks a lot.
Take care.
Yes, take care, you too. And it was great chatting with you.
All right.